Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
May I present to you the cat?
I am the dog. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I'm your host tonight, Caleb, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And special guest, Not Wes. It's Not Wes. Welcome, Not Wes. Oh, right. He's not here.
It's a strong silent type.
So we are once again without Wes this week, listener. And this time, it's because he is once again being a good dad and taking care of his sick kids. They have like a stomach bug or something at their house. So,
yeah,
you know, thoughts and prayers for Wes as he's cleaning up vomit or whatever he's doing.
It's unfortunate.
But good luck to you, man.
I was going to say, it just once again proves that really nobody actually cares about Microsoft.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree because I kind of don't, but right, yeah, don't really have a way to finish that thought. So we're going to move on. We're going to start actually with a Google pre-event hardware launch, which is a thing that makes sense. So much sense.
Sadly, it kind of does when it comes to Google. and unfortunately, I mean, usually we've already talked about how they already announced more or less the phones that they're going to be announcing next week.
I mean, that's true.
But this wasn't even that. This was something entirely different. And of course, it happened the day after we recorded, listener, because that's how all these tech companies like to do things. They just hate us, apparently. Which,
yep.
Okay.
Us personally. It's weird.
They favor everyone else, but they're like, calling out platforms. No. Anyways. So this wasn't even an event. This was just basically posts online saying, hey, look, we got new stuff. And it was things that, they've been leaked forever because it's Google and it's 2024 and all their stuff gets leaked. That's just how it is nowadays.
Yeah.
So the things that were announced, there was a new Nest Learning Thermostat and a new, unfortunately named Google TV Streamer, which has to go in the nominations of worst tech name of the year because obviously.
Yeah.
But let's start with the Nest Thermostat. So this is the first Nest Thermostat in a while. Like, I don't even remember when the last time these were updated.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a thermostat. How often do you really need to upgrade?
No.
So that's fine. But this is the 4th generation Nest Learning Thermostat. The biggest differences here are in the looks of it. Obviously, they changed a little bit. It still has that more or less iconic Nest look to it. Like it's got the big display on the front. It is nice and shiny around the edges. It looks good. It does have a slightly bigger actual display on it than the previous generation, which in turn does more than what the previous one did. So it can actually show different things on it. And in case you thought this thing had died because we haven't heard from it since the Pixel 4, the Soli sensor, listener, if you remember that, Pixel 4's little radar sensor thing that they had on the phone and different things, this now has that, and it can tell more easily if you are looking at it from a greater distance. And based on how far away you are from it, will show you different things on it. So,
wow.
The way this sensor works is say you're sitting on the couch, you'll just glance over at the thermostat. It can, if you are in eyesight of it, it can, it'll just show you the temperature in bigger, bolder letter or like, picture.
Yeah,
basically.
big font.
So it's easier to see. And then as you get closer to it, it'll start to show a little more detail. Like it can show weather updates or like different thing, like just a bunch of different stuff on it. So kind of cool the way they're utilizing the Soli sensor again, finally, because it's been
I was going to
a long
say
time since they've used it.
I remember this thing, but holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw it in a hardware product was the Pixel 4, and it didn't work great on there. You were supposed to be able to like swipe your hand over it to change songs or different things like that.
That's right.
And it only worked like half the time, if that.
It's like a core memory unlocked right here. Holy cow.
I mean, the people that I knew that had the Pixel 4, the biggest benefit they got from the Soli sensor was faster face unlock, basically. Because like it had all the same sensors as what is in Face ID on the iPhone, but then you added the radar sensor, so it just made it could sense you coming to the phone quicker. So it was basically unlocked right when you picked it up and looked at it. So it was a little quicker. That was the biggest benefit that I saw from Soli. None of the other stuff, because none of the other stuff, like I said, actually worked.
Yeah.
But I do think this is actually a pretty interesting and cool way of utilizing those sensors. So we'll actually see how it functions in real life when people get their hands on this thing. But it's one of those, like, if you already have a Nest thermostat, you probably don't need to upgrade to this unless you have like the first or second generation one. Then maybe. But like, I have the Nest thermostat, I think it's the Nest E. It was the one that's like all white and like a clouded display on it, and it actually fits in a little better with where I have it. And
with most decor, let's be honest,
it
fits in better with most decor.
Yeah. So like, I'm not going to be buying this because I don't need the next generation of thermostat, pretty much. But if you are in the market, then this is now available. The price on this, let me find.
It's free! Yay! That would be a bizarrely altruistic move on Google's part. And actually, let's be honest, if Google starts giving away free smart home devices, listener, maybe don't get those, because there's a reason they're free. Google's still making money off of it. They're just not making it from you, which would suggest that you are, in fact, the product they are selling.
I mean, that's always been the case, so,
It's true, but even more so in that case. Just, don't do that. Same goes for Amazon.
Oh, definitely for Amazon. So the new Nest Learning Thermostat is $280, which is on par for what the higher end version has been for a while. They do still have the older version at $139. So, a little bit different look to that one, but I think they all look really good. They come in multiple colors. So, if you want to try and match your decor a little bit better, then there's the option, I suppose. But yeah, that's the new Nest Learning Thermostat. I heard somewhere that, so some part of the problem with some older homes is they didn't have a specific wire. I can't remember which wire it was that the previous generations of the Nest thermostat needed for, I don't even remember what it was for. But this one is supposed to be able to work either way, whether it has that wire or not, and it'll still do all the same stuff that it is supposed to do. So if you know what I'm talking about, because I obviously don't, then good for you.
Yep, there you go.
So,
well, I'm still sitting over here on the cheapest dumb thermostat that I could possibly get my hands on, and I don't think I'm the target audience for this thing.
That's
like my thermostat costs less than $20.
And that is not a bad thing, honestly. One thing I did fail to mention is this thermostat does come with one sensor that you can put elsewhere in your house. Like previously, you had to buy those separately. This one does come with one sensor. So there's the sensor obviously built into the thermostat, and there's one additional one that it comes with that you can put somewhere else. Then if you want to buy more than that, there are, I want to say they are either $30 or $40. Then you can buy a 3-pack for a little bit of a discount.
That's not too bad at all.
No, it really isn't. So
Yeah.
if you want multiple sensors to be able, like say your thermostat is in a really dumb location, like next to a window where it's going to be in the sun and it's going to be reading hot, put a sensor somewhere else so it actually will turn on in the right times.
Yeah.
And not be running constantly.
I'd imagine that even if you don't have like a fancy zoned HVAC system, you could still like put multiple sensors in various places in your house and then have the thermostat activate based on an average temperature.
Yeah.
Instead of a specific local sensor, which would be good. So that if you have one sensor that's an outlier or something like that, then it's not going to screw up the, your entire HVAC system. And I don't know, maybe it can set off a fire alarm if suddenly one of the bedroom sensors spikes to like 100 degrees or something.
That would be nice. You know,
you'd think.
I don't know if this is the case or not, but I would really hope that there's an option in there if you have multiple sensors and you don't have one of those fancy HVAC systems that, can change the temperature in individual rooms, because most people don't.
No.
But if you have multiple sensors, be like, okay, I want this time of day to focus on this sensor and this time of day to focus on this sensor.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Being able to like change the programming around those different sensors, I feel like that would be extremely beneficial and probably already exists in the software, I would guess.
I would hope so.
Otherwise, why are they calling it the learning thermostat? I feel like that would be a bit of a misnomer if it's not able to learn what you want it to do.
I mean, that is the premise behind it, but I will, in my experience, it's not great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still sitting, like I said, on a dumb thermostat. I just set a temperature and then just walk away. It's okay. Yeah. It works.
I mean, I could do that with this one. I can make it so it just, at this time, go to this temperature. At this time, go to this temperature. I don't, because I don't know why I really need to. It'd be much better. Instead of every time I walk past it, no, I don't want it to that. Go back down, please. Anyways, on to the, as we already mentioned, unfortunately named Google TV streamer. This is basically a Chromecast, but a set-top box type situation.
For reasons.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what those reasons are?
Well,
have you figured that out yet?
I don't know what Google's reasoning behind it is. The only thing I can think of is, like, the benefit here is you have more ports on the device. So it's got built-in Ethernet port, which is nice. It's got an HDMI 2.1 port on it as well. It's got USB-C for different things. So it's got different ports built into it, whereas like the Chromecast dongle thing did not have those ports. If you wanted Ethernet built into the Chromecast, you had to buy a separate charging brick that had Ethernet into that.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of a pain in the butt. So this has it built in, which is nice. They're also kind of wanting this to be your Google Home, like smart home hub type situation, which I actually think is really cool. So inside of the UI, you can like do all of your Google Home stuff through the Google TV streamer, which is really cool. So on your TV, you can look, if you have cameras set up, you can look at all the cameras through the TV. You can look at the thermostat information through, like all this stuff that's into the Google Home app, you can now do on the TV, which I do think that is really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Something I'm surprised Apple hasn't done yet.
They have, sort of. Like with Apple, the Apple TV can function as the home hub for your Apple TV smart home devices, your Apple TV smart home devices, your Apple compatible smart home devices, HomeKit. That's what it's called. Your HomeKit devices. Yeah, that is integrated into Apple TV. It's just that, as with most things in the Apple ecosystem, you don't actually have direct control over a lot of the stuff in HomeKit.
Yeah.
So you can't, like, at least as far as I'm aware, you can't go into the Apple TV and like individually control all of your HomeKit enabled devices. Like if you want to issue a command to do something, like to turn on lights or turn off lights or something like that, you can't do that through the HomeKit app in there. I think you can do it with Siri on the Apple TV, just like you would on your iPhone. And if you're watching TV and somebody rings your doorbell, then it is set up to where it will automatically pop up your doorbell camera on the TV and show you stuff like so that stuff is integrated into that. And in that way, this is making, the Google TV experience more like an Apple TV, less like just a streaming stick. It is more than that. So
Gotcha.
There's that. I guess it's not a thing that I think about because I don't have any smart home stuff, and I do not intend to get any smart home stuff. So that's
Fair.
a function of my Apple TV I do not use, have never really looked at, don't know all the specifics, but there is some of that functionality definitely exists on the Apple TV.
Yeah, that makes sense. Other features on this, so it does do 4K at 60 frames per second, so that's nice. It has Dolby Vision, HDR10, HDR10 Plus, support Dolby Digital Audio, Dolby Digital Plus, and Dolby Atmos. Wow, why does Dolby have so many? Anyways,
it's kind of their whole thing.
I mean that's true, but there's so many different versions. It's got 4 gigs of RAM built in and 32 gigs of storage. Interestingly, it's using a MediaTek MT8696 processor, which is about 4 years old, I think. So
yeah, but it's just
strange.
Streaming. That's fine, probably.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you're giving us this now. Could we have gotten a better processor that is a little more future-proof, maybe?
I mean, I am not even sure exactly which processor is in my Apple TV, but it's at least 4 years old. And
the Apple TV is itself about 4 years old.
Well, yeah, but Apple expects that thing to flip and play video games because they're psychos. I don't know.
That's fair. That is fair. The other really cool feature about this, though, so it's got the remote, which if you have a Chromecast with Google TV, like I do, then you're familiar with the remote. It's a very similar remote. It's got all the same buttons and everything. It does have a customizable button on this one. So it's got a YouTube button and Netflix button that you can automatically go to those apps. And then the customizable one, you can have it open a different app, or I don't know exactly how customizable it is, but you can at least make it go to a different app if you want it to, or something else. That is nice. But the coolest feature about the remote is if you happen to lose it on the Google TV streaming box, the actual hardware part of it, there's a button on the back of it you can push, and it'll make the remote start ringing so you can find it, which is fantastic.
Apple, if you steal nothing else from this thing, that, please.
I mean, I wish they would make it more similar to like a Find My type situation.
That's true. And I guess the most recent Apple TV remote does actually support Find My integration now, so maybe it's a moot point, but still.
Yeah, I do like that there is a physical button on the product itself that you can push to make it work.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do this inside of the Google Home app on your phone and be able to find the remote, but at least there is an option to find it in case, because it is a very small, slippery remote. It's not nearly as bad as the Apple TV remote when it comes to that, but it is still similar in size and shape and losability.
Yep. Yeah, well, and like that's the thing. Apple's all like, "Hey, we put Find My integration into the Apple TV remote," but it's not like it doesn't have an ultra wideband chip on it. It's just using the Wi-Fi, basically Bluetooth.
Yeah.
It's using a Bluetooth signal to find it, and that's like, okay, it's in the room with me. Thanks. That doesn't help. I know it's in the room with me. It never leaves this room. It's a TV remote. Being able to push a button on the Apple TV and make the thing make a noise, that is so much more helpful than Find My integration if it doesn't have the ultra wideband chip in it. Like if it was ultra wideband, then yeah, that would be helpful. You could use an ultra wideband phone and it would direct you right to it. But it's way cheaper to just put a tiny little Pico speaker in there and a little button on the Apple TV and just let me push the button and it just goes ring.
Yeah.
Please, Apple, please. This is common sense crap. Like, seriously.
It really is. And I'm really glad that Google did put that in this because, again, these remotes are super easy to lose, especially if you have children.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're going to be gone.
And they're so small. Like back when I was a kid, it wasn't nearly as big of a problem because the remotes were gargantuan.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially
like
if you had a universal remote
today.
Like
oh yeah.
Those old universal remotes were like the size of 3 remotes in one because they were 3 remotes in one and they just didn't take the size down at all.
They had like 64,000 buttons on them and everything. And it's like, yeah, sure, you lost it between the cushions, I suppose, because you sat on it, but it was not hard to find.
No.
You just kind of like, oh, yep, it's right there on that cushion, that kind of thing. New remotes, like, man, those slide down in the cushions. They're like,
they're gone.
They face through the couch and into the floor.
Somehow
like
into the basement.
Yeah. It's just, they just like drop through the video game level into unrendered space below your house. They're insane.
It's crazy. So yeah, that's my favorite feature about this whole device is the remote being able to have like produce a sound when you lose it. Great.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
The other really cool feature is the price. So they've made this obviously to compete with products like the Apple TV. But this one is only $100, which is much better and much more affordable. It's still way more expensive than like the Chromecast with Google TV. I think was like $50. But again, if you paid $50 for that, you were doing it wrong.
Yeah, don't do that.
Like I still have one somewhere sealed in a box because Google just gave one to me. I don't even remember why. And I already had a different one that I got for like $20 some other time. So it's like, if you bought one of those brand new at full price, you should have gotten 3 for that price.
Yeah.
Anyways, $100 really isn't too bad for what it is. And it is also, like I said, it's made to be seen. Like they didn't make it so you can just hide it like the dongle, which for some people is potentially going to be a reason not to buy this. I understand that. Like you have a certain aesthetic you're going for on your TV, very minimalistic maybe. Like we've got a lot of stuff connected to the wall behind our TV because we want to hide it. But this one is meant to be out in the open. It will function better if it has more direct line of communication with the remote. It should still work fine if you put it somewhere, but Google is saying it's not meant to be put in a cupboard or hidden out of the way.
Yeah.
It will work better if it has that direct line of sight, but it probably will still be okay otherwise.
I mean, I suspect that it's probably like a home hub type thing where they're like, yeah, the more out in the open it is, the better it's going to be able to receive like weaker Bluetooth signals from some of your smart home devices and whatnot. Yeah. So that might be part of it as well.
Yeah. So I actually really like it. I don't think I'm going to get one because I'm not in the market for something like this. I have a Roku TV. I have multiple Chromecasts with Google TVs. So I don't necessarily need this, but I do like that they are in the set-top streaming box type thing.
Yeah.
That market is really, we need more people in that market because basically it's always been Apple or NVIDIA. If you want an NVIDIA Shield, which has been like the go-to when it comes to Android TV experiences.
Yeah.
But now
It's just much more powerful than the other options. Like,
yeah,
by a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking to play games on that device, that's the one you go for sure.
Yep.
But I like that there's another one now available from Google. So that's cool. But the biggest downside to this new Google TV streamer, I have to start something, listeners, so just be patient. Because of the TV streamer, another product has been killed off by Google. This time, unfortunately, is the Chromecast. Freaking Google. Some things that you kill off make sense. Some things that you don't kill off don't make sense. And then there's things like this. The Chromecast. Probably your most popular hardware product to date. I would say by far. I mean, I don't know.
Probably.
I don't have numbers.
Yeah.
But
I can't imagine anything else is even close.
yeah, I know so many people that bought even the original Chromecast. When it first came out, I knew people that waited in line to get those things, and they sold out fast. Like, you had to be at Best Buy on delivery day to get them, and hopefully you'd get one because half the people that worked at Best Buy were just taking them home themselves. So, like, trying to get these things when they first came out was a pain in the butt. And they've gotten better over the years, and they're just great. But now they want to focus, I guess, on the bigger product. So they're no longer going to be having the Chromecast that plugs directly into your HDMI port on your TV, which is really too bad because it was a great product. It worked exactly how it was supposed to. And it worked no matter what device you had. That was really the biggest benefit to it. Like, you could cast from an iPhone, you could cast from a Windows computer, you could cast from a Mac, an Android device. You know, you could cast from anything to the Chromecast and watch on your big screen TV. It was great.
Yeah. I think my favorite part about the Chromecast was that it had a very recognizable, like, reasonable brand.
Mm-hmm.
Chromecast. It was designed to cast things from a tab in Chrome to a TV.
Yeah.
Chromecast. I love it. Makes sense. It grew beyond that. The brand expanded to include casting from things that are not Chrome and also streaming stuff directly from the cloud. Okay, that's fine, but it was still just a nice, recognizable brand. Google TV, also a nice, recognizable brand. That would have been fine. The Google TV streamer, obviously, it's a streamer, you dorks. It's a TV thing that you put on your TV for streaming for that. We all know how this works. Google, you didn't have to put it in the name of the... What the heck? You got rid of Chromecast to give us TV streamer?
Yeah.
Even if it was just Google TV Cast, that would have been better. It would have been using an existing brand as well.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck?
Like, everyone knows Chromecast. Like,
Yes.
even if you didn't own a Chromecast, you knew, like, I mean, you just use the term casting, but that came because of the Chromecast, because you would cast to your TV from your phone. That was Chromecast built into the TV at that point. Like, that's just how it works. And, like, the iconography, the little logo that they had for Chromecast is everywhere. People know what that does. And so just to kill it off all willy-nilly like this, it's like, Google, seriously? What? Why?
Yeah.
Why? I really do not understand.
Classic Google.
Like, this baffles my mind way more than killing off Stadia prematurely. Like,
Yep.
that one I could kind of see to an extent because obviously they didn't have the people using it. That was just really early. This one, on the other hand, it's like, you've been doing Chromecast for at least 10 years at this point. Why?
Yeah. Doesn't make sense.
Ugh.
Oh, well.
That's all of my Google news for this week. Now, next week, on the other hand, because like I mentioned, Google has an event tomorrow And that's
Yeah.
their actual made by Google event where we are expecting phones, watches, who knows what else. I mean, there's going to be lots of more hardware to talk about and new AI stuff because reasons. I don't know.
Oh, everything's going to have the word AI in front of it.
Oh, I did forget. Speaking of AI.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. I guess
Oh, no.
if you're really into AI art, I suppose, the TV streamer has the option to, as your screensaver for your television, you can give it a prompt and it will make AI art based on that it will display on your TV as the screensaver. So there's that.
That's a terrible idea.
Right? I mean,
Oh my gosh.
It made sense with Chromecast. You know, you could have your Google Photos library be the screensaver or different things like that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
AI art based on, I mean, you can give it whatever prompt you want. And all of a sudden, that's on your television AI version. That's not sketchy at all.
I can just tell you right now, listener. First of all, even if you pick some innocuous prompt like photos of misty forest glades or something like that aren't going to have people in them or animals in them or something like that for the AI to screw up, the art is still going to feel very flat and dull and derivative in comparison to actual photos taken by actual people.
Yeah. Because
AI art all feels dull and lifeless and derivative. But then, if you want to, you can totally put something like, I don't know, pictures of a group of friends laughing on the beach. And that can be your prompt. And you're just going to get horror show after horror show of like these eldritch body horror abominations as your screensaver for your TV. Just put that on a Samsung frame and have that up for visitors that come to your house. This is dumb. Can we just stop with it, please? Oh man.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Wow. Yep, that's pretty unfortunate. Okay, well, next week, more Google things. Lots more Google things.
Yay.
So, for this week, though, we're going to move on to Apple news. Not news, rumors. Apple rumors about this year's iPhones? No, next year's iPhones, because that's where we're at.
I mean, we
trying
already
to find
know everything about this year's iPhone.
We do. And in trying to find interesting things to talk about in the world of iPhones, we're looking forward to 2025 and the iPhone 17 because everyone seems to be in agreement that the iPhone 16 is going to be a yawn. That's my opinion.
Just like the 15 and the 14.
And the 14. Oh, goodness gracious me. It's been a great couple of years. So,
there's a reason I still have an iPhone 13.
Same, actually. And this is not going to help. Okay, so the iPhone 17 lineup is rumored at this time to be ditching the Plus line in favor of Air branding. So instead of, because over the past several years, the Plus iPhones and the mini iPhones have all been commercial flops, evidently. They're just not selling very well. In order to try and differentiate something else from the standard iPhone, they're going to have an iPhone Air that's going to be thinner than the normal iPhone, but otherwise uses the same hardware, much as how the MacBook Air was thinner than the MacBook, but otherwise used the same hardware. Oh, wait, no, that's not how that worked at all, actually. It had a whole bunch of hardware differences. Wonder if that's going to have any problems.
This makes total sense because literally everyone I talk to constantly asks me, when are these companies going to make thinner phones? That's the only thing anybody wants is a really thin device. That's the biggest thing. It's not battery life or bigger screen. No, they want thin. That's all. No. Nobody's asking for that.
The thing that I love about this is that the only people the only people on the planet that are asking for their phones to be smaller in any dimension are people like me who want the screen to be smaller.
Yes.
Those are the only people. Nobody is out here asking for a thinner iPhone, Apple. Just like nobody was out here asking for a wider, larger screened normal iPhone when it was like $100 difference from the regular Pro. And everyone was like, nah, I'm just going to go buy the Pro iPhone at that price. What the heck? This is doomed already. And it's a rumor. For next year's iPhone. This has already, I am hoping that they kind of leaked this rumor out into the wild to get people's opinions on, hey, what if we were to do an Air iPhone instead of a Plus iPhone? Are you interested in that? And hopefully they will see the reaction and go, mayhaps not. Maybe we should not make this phone. Because, the iPhone 17 definitely, I'm sure they're working on hardware prototypes for it right now, but nothing's set in stone. It's not too late for that. The iPhone 16, that is set in stone at this point. It's shipping, it's being manufactured, everything. But the 17, it's still early enough that we can go, hey, maybe don't do an Air. If you're going to decrease any dimension of the phone, the only one that anyone wants is the screen size. And you've already proven that that's a fairly small portion of your customer base. That yes, people do want that, but not that many. And evidently not enough to make it viable. So maybe just stop doing that. In fact, Apple, I've got one for you. If you're concerned about selling phones kind of in that price range, what you should do is decrease the price a little bit. Yeah, I think that's what you should do. Actually, I think maybe another thing that would work is if you were to say, get rid of the Plus and not replace it with anything and just lower the cost of the Pro by $100, I think you would sell a lot of Pros, See, that would...
That's what I was thinking. It's do we really need 4 versions of the main flagship phone?
No.
Can we just have the iPhone Pro, and the iPhone Pro Max? That's all anybody ever wants. If they don't want the Pro, they're fine with the regular size iPhone. Obviously, They didn't want the slightly larger regular iPhone. Most people didn't want the slightly smaller regular iPhone. They wanted the regular iPhone. If they want the Pro, they would get the Pro. If they want the bigger screen, they'd get the Pro Max, because those make the most sense. You do not need a fourth. If you want a fourth iPhone, keep the SE, because that does make sense and does sell.
And that's actually what they probably should be doing, is if you want to sell 4 iPhones every year, just make the SE a phone that renews every year.
Yes.
You sell one of those, release one of those at $450 or whatever. Then you have your $700, it should be $700, but whatever, $800 iPhone, and then your $900 iPhone Pro, and then your $1,000 Pro Max. Hey, Apple, I just solved all of your sales problems.
Yep.
Because especially at those prices, I think the normal iPhone should be $700. And then actually, what would make more sense to me in terms of pricing is you sell a $700 iPhone, a $900 iPhone Pro, and then an $1,100 Pro Max.
Yeah.
You get a little bit more spread there. You get to sell the most expensive one at the expensive price that you currently are already selling that one for. Everybody else feels like they're getting a bit of a discount. The folks that are buying the normal iPhone are all like, you know what, actually, $900 isn't that much more for the Pro. They're going to jump up to that, especially if you make the storage upgrades as ridiculous as you do currently.
Seriously.
I don't know. This feels like a problem that kind of solves itself if you just look at the market from the perspective of a consumer at any point, even just once.
Yeah, seriously.
Apple.
And if they really desperately want to have some sort of branding that's dumb, because they do, you can have the iPhone SE, then the iPhone Air, and then the iPhone Pro and Pro, do it that way.
I mean, that's true. They could totally do that. It's not like they sell a MacBook anymore.
Yeah.
We just have the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, and it's like, freaking, what's the point? Oh, man. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't done... And then we've got the Mac Mini and the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio. So I guess the iMac is the normal Mac, but it's still called iMac, not just Macintosh. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We just don't need any standard whatever. Everything's got to have a separate brand associated with it.
I mean,
Anyways.
honestly, the only reason they should go to an iPhone with the Air branding is if they partner with Nike, you know.
Which they have done in the past.
I mean, they do it with the Apple Watch. Why not add the phone,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Make a
there
bundle. You get the phone and the watch, and it's the app, the iPhone Nike Air Watch SE Max.
Yep. That would not be worse than any of their currently branded products that I can think of. So, yeah,
Seriously.
it would fit right in.
Uh,
All right. We're going to move on from Apple news. Hey, Apple news. Not any. There's none. We're going to move to general tech now because we are skipping Microsoft because Wes isn't here. And neither of us pay attention to Microsoft. So, yep, moving on. AMD's Ryzen 9600X and 9700X have launched to a great and tumultuous meh. So this is obviously not the highest end chips in AMD's Ryzen 9000 series, and the rest of the chips were supposed to be out by this point, but it depending on which insider you believe, either AMD had manufacturing issues with the higher end chips, the 9800 and the 9800 and 9950X, which I'm pretty sure the only two that they are releasing. Those are coming out later this week. There was either a manufacturing issue with those, or they had put the wrong branding on the heat spreaders on the processors. So they said Ryzen 7 instead of Ryzen 9. Or something like that. And so that's why they held them all back and remanufactured a bunch of processors to sell. Anyways, so that means that the launch that we did get, which was just the 9600X and the 9700X, was missing kind of the big show-stopping number makers at the very top. The general consensus is that the 9600X and 9700X are significantly more efficient than the 7000 series processors that they compete with, but not really much faster. So it's like you don't gain a ton of speed, but you do gain a ton of heat and energy savings. And if you cool them well and you overclock them, then you can get quite a bit more speed out of them than what they come with naturally. So, okay. The takeaway is that most people aren't super impressed with them. Most people are waiting for the higher end chips. And generally speaking, if you already have a 7000 series Ryzen processor or even a 5000 series Ryzen processor, now is probably not the time to upgrade if you're looking to go from like a 5600X to a 9600X. Maybe don't do that. Maybe not worth it. In fact, if you're on a 5000 series, if you're on like the 5800 X3D and you want to play games, that's your main use case. Don't. In fact, the 9700X is slower than the 5800 X3D or the 5700 X3D processors, which are still supported, and flipping AMD keeps releasing processors in the 5000 series, even, though it's been like 3 years since those chips launched, because they're still kind of supporting AM4 and the chips are still really good and really competitive. Man, like good job, AMD, I guess, for your support of legacy products. Not necessarily your new lineup, but whatever.
Good job on your old stuff. That people
Yeah,
should keep
good.
buying.
You really knocked it out of the park with the Ryzen 5000 series. I tell you what. Anyways, so yeah, that happened. We'll have more details on their higher end processors in the coming weeks. But for now, it's just kind of like, yeah, sure. AMD launched some chips. It's fine. That being said, even with the lackluster launch, AMD's been having a better couple of weeks than Intel. So, Intel's microcode to fix their 13th and 14th generation issues that we were talking about last week, that has now been tested by several tech journalists, and it turns out there is a performance hit. So if you have a 13th or 14th gen Intel processor, you get a new BIOS update that has the microcode fix that is going to prevent your processor from killing itself, just straight up killing itself, there is going to be a performance hit. Now, depending on the use case, depending on the processor itself, depending on the task that you're looking at, and depending on which source you're getting your numbers from, it seems like you could be looking at a hit anywhere between about 1%, which is pretty negligible, to like 20%, which is not.
Yeah.
So this is still very early days for the testing on these things, and I'm looking for folks to weigh in from sources like Gamers Nexus and that kind of thing, where they do a lot more rigorous testing than most of the journalists that have thus far weighed in. So jury's still out on like kind of exactly how bad this is going to be, but just know that this is a thing that is coming, and it might slow down your processor a little bit. There's a chance it could slow it down a lot.
Yeah.
So that's great. And honestly, at this point, you may just want to get a refund from Intel and go buy yourself an AMD system.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
But not the new one.
Yeah. I mean, the new one's good. They're very efficient processors, and the prices are actually like, the starting MSRP price for the 9000 series chips is lower than the starting price for the 7000 series chips, but the current price of the 7000 series chips is lower than that. So, you go either way. All right. Now, the last thing in general tech news that I wanted to talk about is something that actually came out a couple of weeks ago. It was about a month ago, actually. But we didn't talk about it because, on the one hand, we sort of forgot about it because it is sort of forgettable. And on the other hand, it felt a little too dystopian for me personally. So, the friend, always listening AI pendant, is literally just a Black Mirror episode in progress. This thing is the latest in the AI wearable devices market that is springing up around us, to the horror of all. So following on the Humane AI pin and the Rabbit R1 is the friend. And it is literally just a little necklace type thing, a little dongle that you wear around your neck that is always listening to everything that's going on around it, and pairs with your phone to run an LLM. And its whole purpose is not to provide helpful inputs or context or anything like that. Its whole purpose from the commercial, as far as I could tell, seems to be to roast you when you're sucking at video games.
Pretty much.
That's what I got. Or, yeah, I don't know, listener, you should just go look up the commercial for this thing, because even in the attempt to market it, they couldn't make it look like it wasn't a Black Mirror episode in progress. The thing is creepy as snot. Yeah, it's an always listening device that you wear around your neck that is randomly going to send you text messages on your phone. And it's supposed to be like helpful and supportive and like, to help your mental health and that kind of thing. And, it's supposed to joke around with you and be like a funny friend who's going to socialize with you and whatnot. And just from the perspective of, I can't imagine that actually working based on the technology being in the state that it is today. There's the flip side of that, where I can't imagine that being good or helpful or like not like horribly problematic in any way, in a bunch of different ways. In fact, I can't remember who it was that I was listening to mentioned this on YouTube. It was a really quick thought they just kind of threw out there in like a YouTube short or something. So not a lot of time to actually get into a discussion of it. But boy, did it ever start me thinking. Just the observation that this thing, by its very nature of design and the very, like, the base fundamentals of large language models as they exist today, cannot disagree with you. And I'm like, oh, so it's just a yes man, just surrounding yourself with yes men. That's what this thing purports is going to be a good, helpful companion to you. It's never going to call you out when you say or do something that is stupid or wrong or rude or cruel or anything like that. It's just going to agree with everything you have. It's never going to argue. It's never going to suggest that you go to a different place to eat than the place that you wanted to go to eat. And I'm like, that's not what friends are like.
Not good friends anyways.
Right, exactly. Like, I don't know, sometimes they're individual people, they disagree. But like the number of times that I have had friends disagree with me or call me out on my crap when I am full of crap, and then with the benefit of hindsight, I'm like, yes, they were correct, in fact, and I should probably learn and grow from this experience. Boy, has that ever happened a lot, you know? The number of times that I've gone to a restaurant that I never would have tried before and found myself thoroughly enjoying a brand new branch of cuisine because a friend suggested it because they didn't want to eat at Wendy's for the 500th day in a row. That's happened quite a few times as well. And boy, is that ever a good thing. This thing isn't going to ever do anything like that. And that is just bad. Like, it's real bad.
Yeah. It's
so
definitely problematic. That's for sure.
So yes, Black Mirror episode in progress. We're living in one, listener, as we speak.
I mean,
isn't that fun?
You would think at some point that anybody out there that is in progress of making some sort of individual AI hardware like this would see, okay, this didn't work for them. It didn't work for them. It didn't work for but no, it'll work for us. We got this. We're good. No, you're not. Stop.
Man.
Just stop what you're doing. Just cut all your losses. That's fine. Go do something else. Obviously, you're probably smart in some way. Go get a job at Google or Apple or Microsoft. Utilize your brain's power for something actually beneficial to the world, please.
Yeah. Well, it's just wild because, like, with the Humane AI pin or the Rabbit R1, it was like, we were looking at it, it's the Jurassic Park thing. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could, they didn't stop to think if they should, right? That quote has been running through my mind pretty much continuously for about the past 3 years. And with the Humane AI pin and the Rabbit R1, it was not like, it was like, your engineers were so preoccupied with whether or not they could make this little device to stop and think whether or not they actually could make this little device work.
Yeah.
Like they're all like, hey, I have this concept. Is the technology there? Can the hardware work? Can the software actually deliver what we're promising? Absolutely not, but I'm going to push it through anyways.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not a great way to make a product. This thing is so much simpler. From a hardware perspective, it's just basically a microphone that is sending stuff to your phone. The processing happens there. It's just a large language model. It's a chatbot. That's all it's doing. It doesn't have to provide helpful context to your daily life. It doesn't have to look stuff up. It doesn't have to integrate with apps and issue commands or anything like that. So much simpler. So from a technological standpoint, yes, this thing is possible. We've had chatbots for years. But should you be preying on lonely people who just are looking for some human companionship by selling them a product that isn't going to provide that and is instead going to potentially lock them into some really potentially terrifying feedback loops in their life that is going to make it so much harder for them to socialize and make friends, and may actually, in fact, cost them the few friends or family members that they do have, because it's going to convince them that they should be expecting impossible things from the interpersonal relationships in their life. Like, this thing is going to make the loneliness problem worse if it sees widespread adoption, which I doubt it will, because honestly, it looks really dorky and seems kind of generally stupid. So I don't think it is going to see widespread adoption, but if it did, holy crap, guys, from a societal standpoint, this is not good. Like, don't get me wrong. At some point in time, I would love to see an actual general AI intelligence that is basically fully sentient, that people could make friends with and that kind of thing. But in order for it to hit that point, it needs to be able to have its own personal identity and be able to have its own individual unique thoughts. And it would then disagree with this person in the way that a human would, and would, yeah, that's what socializing is. We're not there. Not even close. Not like 100 years close. We are so far away from that. So yeah, this is a bad product, listener, and don't buy it. And if you hear anybody talking about, hey, yeah, that little AI necklace thing called the Friend, run, screaming out of whatever. That would be so entertaining. Take video, send it to me. Anyways.
Yes. And I mean, listener, if you really want something that is quote unquote always listening, that can give you AI information really quickly, let's say you have an iPhone. Maybe look into the AirPods. They have Siri available, and you can just say, hey, Siri. They're listening for that. They're not listening to everything. They're listening for that phrase. Or if you have a Pixel phone or an Android device, maybe get the Pixel Buds. They do the same thing, but with Google Assistant. Well, Gemini now. And that will give you not always helpful information, but definitely more helpful information than what this thing was going to give you.
Well, and honestly, if you just want something that is always listening to everything that you say and is randomly going to pipe in with totally unrelated comments, just get an Echo Dot, and stick that in your house. It's going, the random things it pipes in with aren't going to be like roasting you on your performance in Halo. It's instead going to be like, hey, do you want to purchase something related to Halo? But that's not really any less pertinent than the stupid stuff this pendant's going to be saying. Yeah. And yes, if you would like to, I don't know, actually carry on conversations with people, there's not technology to solve that problem. You just have to learn how to talk to people. Go sign up for an improv class. I hear they're required to be nice to you. Anyways, I'm going to move on from general tech at this time and into gaming. Now, there's actually a couple of things in the gaming sphere that I want to talk about, but I'm going to hold on to one of them because it's kind of a serious and actually important topic, and I want Wes here when I talk about it. So because we're going to wait.
I cannot input anything serious into gaming because we all know this. I'm not
Landon
saying
doesn't
this,
have skin in this game.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is, a downgrade or something bad about me. This is just who I am. It's just the truth.
So yes, we're going to hold off on that, and instead going to finish off with this wonderful headline that I'll just read it. In the famously terrible field of video game adaptations, the Borderlands movie stands out in kind of the worst way possible. So I'm just going to read a few of the reviews on Metacritic for the Borderlands movie. Just the highlights. Let's see. All the edges have been sanded down so it can be safe and mainstream, but they went too far and there's almost nothing left. It is technically a movie based on Borderlands. Not much else. You can see the jokes, but most of them don't land. Let's see. So drearily routine and slapdash that even an AI would deem it too plagiaristic. Nothing that works about the games has been adapted intact in this ugly, boring, truly inept piece of filmmaking. A movie that was mostly shot years ago and should have been shelved even longer. Like, maybe forever. Let's see. An insipid mishmash of trite genre tropes, Borderlands is devoid of any real edge. And it just keeps going like that. It is on Metacritic currently sitting at 27 out of 100. So that's it's bad. People don't like this movie. If you really want to hear extended ranting about it, there was I believe it was on Outside Extra on YouTube. They did kind of a sit down to talk about it after the fact. And I thought a few years ago that we were finally seeing a revolution in the video game adaptation space. You know, because for years and years in the past, we had Mortal Kombat, we had Resident Evil, we had the Super Mario Brothers movie, but like the old one.
Yeah.
We had so many terrible video game adaptations to film. And I was convinced that we were just never going to see a good one. And then things started to change a little bit. We got stuff like Rampage, which was an utterly forgettable Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson monster movie, but it wasn't offensive to watch, which was an improvement. We got the newer Tomb Raider, which like very generic Indiana Jones clone, but it had some good moments, and I was like, okay, these are like all right. I can almost recommend these to people that just want to turn their brain off and have a nice fun popcorn flick. But then we got stuff like Detective Pikachu and the first Sonic movie. And I'm like, actually, those are decent. Those are okay movies. Like, those are pretty good. And then we moved on to like prestige streaming stuff and got like The Last of Us and Fallout, which have been widely critically acclaimed. Everybody loves them. I'm like, oh my gosh, are we finally getting to the point where video game adaptations aren't going to suck? And now Borderlands has come out, and it's like, oh, no, we just got lucky a few times, I guess. To be fair, the Borderlands movie has apparently been, quote unquote, in development since like 2005 or something like that, shortly after the first Borderlands game came out. Like, it's been a long time. And that is, in video game parlance, what we would refer to as development hell. Hollywood has a different name for it, but that basically just means that the project is sitting there without any consistent leadership, without any consistent creative input, and it keeps just getting cycled over and over and over again, usually because somebody owns the rights to it, and they're not willing to give them up and let somebody who actually has an idea use them for something. That's kind of what happened with the Borderlands movie. It has been in various stages of development for a very long time, and they finally managed to get the project to limp across the finish line this year, and they probably shouldn't have. They probably should have just let it die. So there you go. I just wanted to mention that because, don't get your hopes up, listener. Just because Fallout did really good, for every Fallout, there is a Borderlands. For every The Last of Us, there is a Halo TV show. We're not actually in the Hollywood video game adaptation renaissance right now. We have a couple of good ones. Just enjoy those. Don't watch the other ones. So there you go. That's my gaming news for this week. And listener, I think that is actually going to bring us to the bottom of the podcast, unless Landon has one more thing.
Nope, not this week.
Well, alrighty then. In that case, listener, we're going to sign off. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can do so on our website at callingallplatforms.com. You can get in touch with us on our social medias. We're at CapTechPod on Twitter or Calling All Platforms on Facebook. You can also email us at podcast@callingallplatforms.com. And you can find us on YouTube, Calling All Platforms Tech and Calling All Platforms Gaming. And, listener, you can also find us right back here in the podcasting app of your choice next week. Until then, bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.